They were trying to figure out how they could call in and say they were going to be late.
All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. So, wow, we've got heaps of people in already.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Nancy, Simon, Cindy, Chris, Nerese, Nat.
I'm not even going to try to say everybody's name. Hi, everybody.
Who else have we got? Have I gone through everyone? I think. Oh, hey, Elle. Whoa, lots of people in here chatting already. Jackie. Oh my goodness, Ginger Faye. Hey, Martha. Barely Balanced Tarot.
I can't even see the chat on my computer. I can see it on my iPad, but I don't have it on my on the StreamYard window.
Ah, okay.
Oh, there it is. I see. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it. I was in private chat.
Okay. Hey, sweetie, we're not doing messages readings today. So today.
Oh God, no. God, no.
Let's not put Mendy too much. Thank you all for joining us. I am super excited to have Mendy here to chat with her, and it's all just kind of happened organically. Like I said when I was chatting with Jonathan, that I've got no intention of doing like actual interviews with people. Like plenty of people do that really great, and it sort of stemmed from, you know, just me hearing things about Jonathan, like talking in chats that I said, come on, let's chat. Then I hit Mendy up, the last chat I did with Jonathan, and because I also know that you have a pretty interesting kind of background and things that have happened for you.
I don't think it's that interesting, but you did, so I'll talk to you about it. Not as interesting as Jonathan, that's for sure.
I think that whole history of his life is like pretty hard to kind of.
Yeah, it's hard to follow Jonathan. That's
no, he will be just as fabulous, and your background is just as interesting. So you grew up in quite a strict religious household, didn't you?
Yes.
What denomination was that with?
It was Baptist. So it was an independent Baptist. They called themselves an independent fundamental Baptist church. So it wasn't associated with any larger. It was just by itself, but it was incredibly strict. Like most of the women didn't wear pants. They didn't wear makeup. You couldn't listen to any secular music. It was basically, if anyone has ever watched 19 Kids and Counting, the Duggars, that's how I was raised in that type of church. I don't know if you get that show in Australia, but it's very, very crazy strict. I mean, I remember people giving my mom a hard time because I was allowed to wear shorts, and that was very ungodly. So my mom was kind of looked down upon because she had been divorced before. Also because she was in a mixed marriage. Now they're not that way anymore, but back in the 70s and 80s, that was a big no-no. And, you know, it was very not acceptable that it was a mixed race marriage. So I remember a pastor at one point actually said to my mom, in front of me, you know, you can't uncrack an egg, and just basically we have to accept you the way you are. And basically I was the egg.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the way I was raised. So I didn't buy into it. I was a very argumentative child and questioned everything. And that was a big no-no. You couldn't question. You could never question anything. In fact, you were told that you must not be saved and you must not be a Christian if you are going to question anything. So anytime you questioned anyone that was, you know, a pastor or a teacher at this, and I went to the school too. I was totally submersed. We went to the school that was associated with the church. All my friends came from that. Everything. If you questioned anyone about any of the beliefs or any of the, you know, the rules, then they questioned your faith.
Wow. Okay.
And I had a problem with that. I had a problem with that. So as soon as I was old enough, I quickly moved away from that. And my parents, by the time I was in my late teens, they had started moving away from that too. So it wasn't difficult to just stop going to church.
So even though you had that, you have sort of mentioned that there were experiences you had that were sort of counter to this like whole religious upbringing. So tell us about that and how that.
It was interesting. My mom was an interesting woman. She was an artist, so she was very creative thinking, right? And you know, she had me in this church. She followed the rules. She was very, you know, she wanted me raised this way. But on the other hand, my aunt, who wasn't really my aunt, she was my grandmother's best friend, was psychic. And she would have these, and it was just known. I mean, I would just grow up and Aunt June would have a moment. My grandmother would call it, oh, June's having a moment, where she would just go into these kind of trances for a couple minutes. And then she'd turn and look at whoever she was reading something from or having some sort of vision about. And she'd say something completely off topic, off the wall. And then it would happen. So like they would be playing cards or doing whatever. My grandmother and my Aunt June, because my mom didn't play cards, that was bad. But they would be doing something. My mom would be, you know, in my grandmother's kitchen, and my Aunt June would have a moment, and then she'd turn to my mom and she'd say, "Lolly, you're gonna have car problems." I mean, that would be completely off the wall. And then 2 days later, my mom's car would break down.
Were you ever around to see her do this?
Oh yeah, it happened all the time. It happened all the time. My whole life, it happened all the time. And she was very close and very involved in our family. Came to all the holidays, and she was always there for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and all the family events. And her daughter, who another artist, and she was the first person to ever introduce me to astrology. She started reading my chart. She did a birth chart, a natal chart for me. I guess I was in my teens. And then she did transits for me for a few years after that. And I developed an interest. So I started reading up on it, and I stopped going to her for it and started. And like that was all okay. Now, of course, we didn't talk about that with the church people.
But ever question your mum, like, about this aunt who would do this, and like, would your mum talk to you?
No, because it was just family, and it was just, you know, it was just something that happened. It was just something that happened. And then my Aunt June's daughter, again, was the first person to read my cards. And that happened after we had kind of separated from the church, and my parents had gotten divorced. And then my mother really was, you know, not, so she had gone off. I was in college, and it was, I guess, around Christmas time or whatever. And Cheryl was doing card reading. So I went and had my cards read. And that was the first time I ever had my cards read. And so it was, you know, and that's kind of what started my interest down. And I started with astrology. That was really where my interest was. The cards I was kind of on the fence about, but I really just.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Because if, you know, you've grown up where this stuff can't be talked about, but at the same time, it's just normal for you to see this aunt go into these trances. So when you went and you got the cards read that first time, was there any fear in it? Was it just natural given everything else?
Yeah, it was just something to go do. I
Yeah.
was, we I never, the only thing that I haven't gotten into, and it's still kind of a fear-based thing, was that my mom was very, very afraid of the Ouija board. She had had a bad experience with a Ouija board when she was a teenager, a very frightening experience. And she was very much no Ouija boards, no Ouija boards. There could be no Ouija boards. And I remember my brother, who's much older than I am. So when I was very little and he was a teenager, he had brought a Ouija board home once. And my mom's like, get that out of the house. No Ouija boards. That was the thing. So I kind of just stayed away from there. And then I had started seeing a card reader and a medium several years ago. And I would go to her routinely. And she was the same way. She was like, and she read on a handmade Ouija board, but she said, I never use it as a Ouija board. And it's too powerful. I don't. So that's always been something that I just don't touch on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just something I kind of stay away from.
How did that even, like, given that you were brought up in this very strict, like, religion, and I know obviously, mum had a more open mind, like if she was sort of with the aunt and all of that kind of stuff. But how did it even come up that she would say no Ouija boards?
Well, she was just telling me about experiences. Like she had also had an experience where, I'm forgetting the word. What's it called when you leave your body? When you, yes.
Yeah.
She'd had a couple experiences of that. So she told me about that, and then she told me about the Ouija board, and that was a bad thing, and it really scared her, and she never wanted anything to do with that again.
Okay. That's really interesting because if they're bringing you up in this very strict.
I know,
but then mum still openly talks to you about the fact that she did Ouija boards and she had this experience. And
we had a very open relationship that we talked about all sorts of things. And we talked about, anything and everything. Like I said, she was an artist. She was just kind of very free spirit. Mm-hmm. So we talked about a lot of things, but they wanted me raised in this very strict and regimented.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. How old were you when you very first started to get into like the astrology with your cousin?
Oh.
How did that go with your mum at first or your parents at first?
Well, my mom paid for my natal chart. She got mine and my sister's and hers. And I want to say my niece and nephew, they were little. She got their charts done. She had, when she found out Cheryl was doing charts, she paid for all of our charts to be done.
Wow.
And that was, I think I was a teenager. I was 16 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever talk with mum about the crossover of things like astrology, the aunt going into trance, like how that related to the religious beliefs? Like, was there conversations around that, or it was just like, we talk about this in one area and we go do the church stuff in this area and we don't talk to them?
I'm trying to think. I think it was more along of, June and Cheryl are just weird that way, and we don't really believe that stuff, but yet we believe that stuff. But we don't really believe in that stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But it really wasn't a conversation. It was just part of our life. It was just part of, what was happening around us.
Yeah. Yeah. And just going to, hello, we've had so many more people come in.
Oh my gosh, there's so much conversation going on.
We've had beautiful Candy come in. We've had Sandra, Ginger Faye, I think I did say hi to you. Who else? We've got Summer.
Oh, I see there was a lot of talking about Ouija boards.
Becca. Yeah, if you do need my attention, please put at or make it capitals, because I get a little bit engrossed with my chats and kind of avoid looking at the chat that's going on. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm looking.
what, like, first got into astrology, what were you doing with it? Like, was it just learning it? Were you talking to mum about it at the same time? Like, how
No,
did that all kind of play out?
it was just like I said. I had my very first. I think I mentioned this in a chat at some point. My very first, like my natal chart and my first few yearly transits were done on cassette tape, where Cheryl would do them and read them, and she would record them on cassette tape, and I would listen to them in my car, and that's how I have, and I still have them, but I have no way to listen to them. But I just started getting books, and I wanted to learn to do them myself. I wanted to learn, and it was really more just for my own, self exploration, just really kind of understanding how it all worked and how it all came together. And it was, it was when I was in college, and I was just in and out of it. I would spend some time looking at it, then I would get distracted. I wasn't really committed to it. It was just something that I would fiddle around with from time to time.
Yeah. Did you ever, like, I know you got to that point where the cousins started to like read tarot cards, but before that, even as you got into astrology, you'd grown up in this, had you thought about tarot? Like, was there a point in time where tarot was bad in your mind because of your upbringing?
Not really. I mean, I really didn't think about it one way or the other.
Yeah.
I went and had readings done, and I really didn't start reading for myself. I bought my first deck of cards, I guess it would be around the mid 90s. Yeah, probably mid to like 95, 96, somewhere in there. And I really didn't even do anything with them. I'd been going to have readings done. I had found this great reader that's just up in PA, and she's at Gettysburg, and she's into all of the like spirits around in the Civil War stuff and everything. And she's a medium too. And I would go to her, and I've had readings from a variety of other people. And I enjoyed getting readings done, but I really wasn't into reading myself. I bought a deck of cards. We had gone down to New Orleans, and I was in like a voodoo shop type thing down in New Orleans, and they had a deck of cards, and I picked them up. But I just played with them. I read the little white book. I don't even know what happened to them. I think I left them at my mom's house, and they ended up getting tossed when we cleaned out my mom's house. But because she and I played with them for a little bit, just kind of messing around with them. But it wasn't really anything I was interested in studying all that much until later.
Okay. So moving more from the childhood, you expressed to me that you had an incredible experience at college.
Yes. So
talk about that.
Yeah. So I met my guardian angel. I met a guardian spirit when I was in college, and it was really life altering for me. I was driving down this highway on my way to college, and I was driving, and it's a like 6-lane big highway, but it was clear. There wasn't a whole lot of traffic. It wasn't raining or anything. It was a perfectly clear day. And I'm driving, and I'm like 1 lane over from the merge lane, because I had to get over for my exit from where my school was. And out of the blue, my car just starts spinning out. And I mean, there was nothing that could cause this. It wasn't like I slammed on my brakes. It wasn't like there was traffic, but it wasn't a lot of traffic. There wasn't any impediment in the road. Just out of the blue, my car started spinning around on the highway. And all the cars, and it wasn't a lot of traffic, but there were cars, and they were all going, 60, 70 miles an hour. And they're all racing past me and missing me as I'm spinning. And I was sure, like in my head, I was gonna die. I was in this little tiny tin can of a car, that was gonna get crashed on the side. And when it came to the stop like inches from the concrete median separating the two directions on the highway. Like I didn't hit anything. It just came to the stop on the shoulder, facing the wrong way. Within, like, I could have, if I was in the passenger side, I could have just stuck my finger out the window and touched the median. I wouldn't have had to stick my whole arm out. That's how close I was to the median, but I didn't hit it. It was that. And I have no idea how I got there. Like, I don't remember slamming on the brakes. I just remember spinning and seeing the cars flying by me. It was crazy. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it because it was so scary.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting there grasping the steering wheel and like hyperventilating, basically. I was just breathing. I just couldn't believe what happened, watching the traffic come opposite me because well, that was it. I look as I'm sitting there, I didn't see anybody stop, but out of the blue, this little old black man knocks on my window. Like, I did not see him stop, but all of a sudden there's a knock on my driver's side window. And there's this little old black man, like this little short man, like he didn't have to bend over to see into my car window. And I roll my window down and I was near tears. But I think I was in so much shock I couldn't even cry. And he just put his hand through the window and he put his hand on my shoulder. And I just immediately felt calm. And he said, "Young lady, please be careful. People care about you and love you."
That just gives me, my whole body just went into like goosebumps.
I know. And then I just looked at him and I couldn't even say anything. And I just nodded. And then he walked back and I watched through my side mirror as he walked back to a car that was behind me, which I never saw stop. And I closed my eyes for a second. I opened my eyes and he was gone. And the car was gone.
I know everyone in the comment is just like saying like goosebumps as well.
It was insane. And then all of the traffic, and I mean, it wasn't that much traffic to begin with, but there were no cars on the street. So I was able to pull out and turn my car to go the correct direction. It was insane. It was the most insane experience I've ever had.
Wow.
And
did you go home? Did you go on to college?
I went to work. I went to school and then I went to work. And I went to class and I just kind of just sat there and I just thought about what happened. And I went into work and I was working at a hotel at the time. And I went in and I said to my friend, I said, "I just met my guardian angel." And she's like, "What?" I said, "I met my guardian angel." And I told her the story. And she's like, "Oh my God, you almost died." I said, "No, I didn't. My guardian angel was right there."
Wow. Wow.
And I just knew, like, as soon as he walked away, I knew he was an angel. Like, it never entered my mind that he was anything else but an angel. Yeah. I just knew it. And I've always felt his presence around me. I've always felt it.
Have you ever sort of seen him or anything like that?
I've never seen him since, but I've felt his presence. Yeah. I felt his presence. And a medium once told me she saw him hugging me from behind. She described him to me, and I had never told her that story. It was not the medium I usually go to. It was a different one down in Atlanta. My
goodness. That is amazing. And I'm just seeing the comments. Everyone's just like, wow, like goosebumps.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. It was crazy. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know why there was nothing major. There was nothing that I couldn't say had happened at this extreme time in my life when I needed, what I'm saying. It wasn't like some sort of, it was just one about my day. It wasn't like I was in any sort of distress that I needed that. It wasn't, I don't know why then. I don't know but it has stuck with me my whole life.
When you have thought about that fact of it wasn't that you were in distress, it wasn't necessarily that you needed this guardian angel to show up at this time, has there been any conclusion you can come to? Like, do you think about maybe I was destined to have an accident, like in the future, or yeah?
I just the only thing I could think of is that it was meant to get my attention, to know that I was supposed to have contact with spirit.
Yeah. Wow.
That I needed to be open to contact with spirit. That's the only thing I could think of, because it was such an extreme situation and such a, you know, extreme day, you know, just such a ordinary day, an extreme situation and an ordinary day that just came out of nowhere, that I can only think it was meant to be an attention getter.
Yeah. Had you had anything prior to that, like little things like knowing, seeing orbs, like anything at all before?
Not really.
Experience?
No.
So your first experience was of that intensity?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it changed my whole, because I'm a pretty analytical person, and I'm a pretty, I want to see it to believe it type of person. And, but that really opened me up to being, to allowing myself to believe in the unseen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Obviously, such an experience changes your life forever, but how did you start to change? How did you start to view spirituality and all of that from that moment on?
I think it was just an acceptance. It was just an openness that allowed me to, be open to other things, and to also accept that, like, the way and this was some years after I'd left everything the way that I had been raised previously. So probably a good 4 or 5 years since I had cut off from that. But it really gave me the ability just to say, it's okay to, accept that there are other things out there, and that there are other ways to believe, and it's okay.
During that time that you left, that sort of 4 or 5 years you talk about, was that one of those, like, because I know for me, when I went to uni, and, psychology is the same. It's all about the science. It's all about what can be proven. So in that time, I really just didn't even think about spirituality. I always thought there was something higher, something greater, but I kind of abandoned it altogether. Were you like that in that?
Yeah. I mean, I was a sociology major, right? So it was sociology and philosophy, right? So I was a philosophy minor. So it was all about the words and the language and stuff. And I really was just, but I know that a lot of that, there was a lot still hanging over me in the way that I approached certain things. When, having conversations with people, there were things that I look back on and I think, yeah, I still had a lot of that very fundamental, legalistic, judgmental type of Christianity hanging over my head that I wasn't even aware was still there during that time.
Yeah.
I thought I was divorced from it, but I really wasn't yet.
Yeah. Did you still in that time believe in, like, a higher power, a higher something?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I still consider myself a Christian, and I've never not believed in God. I've never not believed in a creator. And, what form God takes, I think that's up to debate. I think that there's a lot of different ways to look at God.
Yeah.
But I've always believed that there's a higher power. And, I still consider myself a Christian because I do believe that I have a pretty strong relationship, and I've always had a good relationship with Christ and with Jesus, because, I do believe that Jesus was somebody very special and sent by God.
Yeah.
Again, the interpretations of what Jesus was here to do is up for debate, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I want to get into when you came, like, really got into like tarot, astrology, all of that again.
Okay.
But in between that period of having this incredible experience that you had meeting your guardian angel, were there any, like, maybe not so intense, but were there other things that came after that?
I can't say there were, but now that I think about it, I remember I mentioned something to you that it was all during that same time. And I was saying that I wasn't really looking at stuff like that when I was in college, but I really was, because I think I mentioned in Jonathan's chat that when I was in college, like one of the classes I took was the philosophy of parapsychology. I mean, I intentionally, for one of my philosophy electives, took a class with Stephen Brown, who's considered, some people say he's a charlatan, but he's studied all of these parapsychological events that have happened, and he's written books about it. And he was actually the chair of the philosophy department of the college that I went to at the time, and he taught this class, and it was just basically studying all of these parapsychological events that happened, determining whether they were hoaxes or whether they really happened. It was basically ghost hunters, but back in the 90s.
Where did you sit with that? Were you open to it or skeptical?
Yeah. No, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was open to it. Like I said, I've been very open to these ideas of things. So I can't say I was totally closed off to all that. And I think I took the class before that happened with my guardian angel. I think that class came before.
Okay.
But I took, I don't remember. That's so long ago. I mean, we're talking what, 30 years now, 40 years now. I don't remember. But yeah, that was all during that, those college age years where I just was, open to pretty much anything.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So tell us how you got right into everything then. So all this lead up, you come from, the very religious, but with these other experiences happened through college, it's kind of there. You have this incredible experience. When did you get right into it, and how did that all happen?
Yeah. So like I said, I would go through over the years. I've been in and out of astrology, and I would go get my cards read. I was very interested, but not interested to study myself so much or spend time in it. Plus, I was busy. I was working, I went to law school, was working, having kids, busy. And, but I had an interest in it. And then I would say back in early 2000s, maybe it was in the later 90s, I bought the deck of cards that I consider my first deck now, that I actually tried to study a little bit with. And that was, I'd gone to a card reader and it was very good. I thought, well, maybe I should try to do that. And so I tried for a little bit, but again, it was hit or miss. It was hit or miss whether but about 5 years ago, yeah, I guess it would be 5 years ago. So my mom had passed 6 years ago. And 5 years ago, I went up to that medium and card reader up in Gettysburg. And I've told her, I tell her nothing. She doesn't ask. And she's one of those readers that asks no questions. You walk in, She gives you a reading. She may ask a couple basic questions after she gives you a reading to kind of flesh things out, and you walk out. She doesn't ask you anything about your life or anything. And I'd had a handful of readings from her in the past. I'd never had a mediumship experience with her. I'd only had my cards read with her, but I did know she was a medium. But she doesn't, it kind of comes when it comes. She doesn't promise you a medium experience. So I go up to her house with 2 of my employees, and
Sorry, I'm listening. I just need to text my husband to come up and turn his bloody alarms off. So keep going. I am listening.
So we go up there, and I think I went in first, and I go in, and she put, I think, maybe 3 cards down. And then all of a sudden she said, "Your mom's passed?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she did." And that's all I said. And she said, "Well, your mom has a lot to say." And I said, "Well, I would imagine she does." And then she started just talking, and it was all stuff that my mom would say, like words my mom would use in the way that my mom would say them. My mom had a very thick Baltimore accent, and this woman does not. She's from Pennsylvania, and she started speaking in a Baltimore accent like my mom, saying words in a Baltimore accent like my mom would. She reiterated like little jokes that we had told when we moved my mom into hospice. We were kind of bantering back and forth about some stuff, and it was just her and I in the room. My sister wasn't even in there at that point. She had gone to get something to eat. And she brought that up and knew about, and I mean, it was nothing of worth discussing with anybody. It wasn't anything I had shared with anybody, but she knew about the conversation that we had had at that point in time. And then she said to me, "Your mom's with, there's a baby. Your mom's with a baby." And she said, "To tell you," she's like yelling at me, "that I need to let you know she's with that baby and you don't have to worry anymore." And I lost a baby. I had a stillbirth 14 years ago. And one of the very last thing my mom said to me before she became unconscious, a couple days after she went into hospice, was, "I'm okay. I'm ready. It's my time. I'm going to go be with Rhett now."
Oh, that was just like
yes. And then she goes in and she goes into this whole thing about her relationship with my dad. She said, she says, "Your dad's still alive." I said, "Yeah, my dad is." "Your mom doesn't like your dad very much." I'm like, "No, my mom does not like my dad very much." She said, "Your mom wants me to tell you not much has changed over here." So my mom still doesn't like my dad very much. But she says, "But she wants me to tell you that she sees things in a different light now. So, you know, she just wants you to know it's all okay." And and then she talked about my kids. She talked about how she watches my kids all the time and follows them around in a protective bubble, or keeps them in a protective bubble. And I mean, it was this long, I mean, probably over an hour. And it was funny because she kept trying to read cards, because that's what I had come there for, to do a card reading. And she kept trying to put cards down. And she's like, "Your mom's not going to let me read these cards. She will not go away." She's insisting she wants to talk to you. And that's like, so my mom, like, that's just the way my mom would be. Yeah. And she said, "So I'm not going to be able to read the cards." And I said, "That's fine. That's fine." And so she says, "Your mom has a lot to say and she wants me to keep talking to you." So she just kept going on and on and on and on. And it was amazing. I was crying. I just had tears just pouring down my face. And everything was it was just such an amazing feeling to have that last conversation with my mom.
Yeah, and I know you've got people in the chat crying, goosebumps, like, because that is beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then, like I said, I had gone there with my 2 employees, and they both, and I don't know if it just opened the floodgates because my mom was so insistent on coming forward, but they also, or if it was just that she was like open and ready to talk to spirits at that point in time. I don't know what happened, but they also had mediumship experiences with her during that with different people. Um, as they went in, and we were just wiped. We left there and we went to go get dinner, and we're just sitting there and we're all just like, we're exhausted. Can you imagine how she feels? I mean, we're just wiped out. And we were just exhausted. And we're talking about everything that happened and what was said and just how much she knew and she was able to tell us, and how there was no way to refute what she was able to tell us. And it wasn't, wasn't anything that somebody could make up. It was just real concrete stuff. And that led into the conversation with the card readings that we'd had from her, and that she was a very good reader. She's a very good card reader and all that. And that's what kind of piqued my interest, because we started talking about doing that. I'm like, well, I've got tarot cards at home. And my assistant, Rhonda, who was there with us, she's like, well, you need to learn how to read them. You've got to start reading them. I'm like, well, I guess I can try. So I went home and I ordered a book. And that's when I really started trying to learn. That was really what it was, just that kind of experience. And then it wasn't that was a tarot experience, but it was the conversation afterwards that kind of spearheaded me into learning how to read tarot.
Yeah. And I know you said it was your first medium experience with this tarot reader you've gone through. Was it your first medium experience ever?
No, I had one prior, like I said, with a psychic down in Atlanta, and she had seen my guardian angel. She had, I thought she was totally like a total hoax. Like, she was saying all this stuff that didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I thought, she's just making stuff up. And then she said to me, has your dad passed? And I'm like, no, my dad hasn't passed. And she said, I see an old man. What about your grandparents? I'm like, I never even met my grandfathers. I don't have any. They both passed before I was ever born. So I don't have any relationship with them at all. And she says, I see an older man with very dark skin, just wrapping his arms around you and squeezing you very tightly. And she said, is there any like older dark skinned man? And he's very short. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I'm like, oh, that was my guardian angel. and she kept saying, I see him and he's just squeezing you so tightly. And he's just got his arms wrapped around you.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Ah, there's so many goosebump moments, like just talking to you. So before we get into, because I want to talk to you about your experience with different tarot readers, and hello to everyone who has come in. I'm sorry I said personal highs. I know I saw Chris above said something about who's got the doggo. Can we meet a doggo? So I heard one of my huskies bark at one point.
My dogs have been oddly quiet, so don't.
I wouldn't have thought you would have heard my huskies, but there ain't no way in hell they're coming into this house and in this room. So that would be a shit show and a half. So before we get into talking about your experiences with tarot readers themselves.
Oh, there's my dog. Do you hear him?
Perfectly timed.
Yeah.
Is there like anything else you want to talk about in relation to like the in-depth study that you've gone through?
I can't think of anything. I mean, like I said, that all transpired about 5 years ago. It was about a year and a half after that I had to stop working. And it really it was my saving grace, because I would have like fallen into a deep, deep depression had I not had something to focus on with my time. Because I've never not worked. I've never not had a vocation of some sort, a goal of something. And then, just sitting around worrying about my health was not going to cut it. That was going to drive me insane. So that's when I really was able to put time and effort into spending. And I basically treated it like it was a college class. There, they go really crazy.
Get them off now.
Thanks a lot, Chris Kelly. So that's really when, so it was probably, it's been about 5 years that I've been seriously studying. It's been probably about 3.5 that it's been almost a full-time job for me, that I've been really focused on doing it. And that's been my, main focus, other than, family and house.
Yeah. And it's such a common thing, isn't it? I think so many of us really dive in, or we come back to the tarot when those shit moments in life really hit us hard. Yeah. Did you?
Sorry, Candy. There goes Chris's dogs. Everybody's dogs are barking now.
My little dog got scared. She barely touched it all, but I'm just like, is she going to start? Did you, obviously, when you've got to give up work, like there's that huge grieving process around you're giving up your life. You've now got to deal with the health aspects as well. Where did your tarot, what was tarot about? Was it about you reading for yourself to help yourself heal, or was it more that you just focused on the learning to kind of keep yourself occupied and interested, or maybe both?
It was probably both. It was very self-reflective. Like, I never set out to become a tarot reader for other people. So it was very much, self-reflective, but it was also to give me something to do.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so Mendy mentioned something to me that she's had a lot of experiences with different types of tarot readers. So I'm stealing this from being one of her videos that she can make.
Oh, yeah. So I thought about doing this as a video, but then I kind of just thought, it seems like a lot of trouble. But like I said, I've gone over the years to many, many different people to get my cards read.
Sorry, before you start that, what is that? Because I get my cards read. I now do it kind of regularly. I actually go to Sedona from Integrative Healing Sedona regularly. More that therapeutic kind of. Before you go, okay, it's time for a tarot reading. Why is it that you choose to go for a tarot reading?
So in years past, it was usually because something was going on, right? Something would be going on in my life. I think I need some clarity. I need something, I need to work something out. And I would go because I had a question, right? I would also go because just to get I've gone for like an annual reading previously. I've gone just for fun. I've gone to check out a new tarot reader that I've heard about. It's for a variety of different reasons. No, Jonathan, I haven't. No.
Miss it?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I've never channeled. Although the medium that was in Atlanta that was able to see my guardian angel, she told me that I had a very strong she thought that I was a medium. Like she says, have you ever had a mediumship experience? And then she actually gave me the card of somebody that she wanted me to contact that could train me to become a medium. But then I told her I wasn't from down there. I was just visiting a friend. And she's like, oh, well, that's too bad. You should look for somebody up by you because I feel like you'd be a good medium. But I don't know. I've never had an experience. But back to your question, I've gone for a variety of different reasons. But for the most part, it's been just because I've, had something that I wanted to work out. When I was going to Charlotte, who was the reader up in Pennsylvania fairly regularly, that was kind of almost my whole office went to her. It was almost like a team building thing. We would actually even have her come in the office.
That's
Sometimes
really cool that you worked in a place where you had all these other people.
I was in charge. I was the manager, the regional manager. So I got to say, I got a lot of flack from one particular extreme Catholic agent. She got very upset with me for doing it. But I'm like, everybody else wants her here. They all go, majority roll, sorry. But I wasn't the one that found her. One of the other people that worked there had a get together at her house, had a party and had her come, and everybody loved her. So we all kind of started seeing her individually or in small groups. And then I'm like, well, let's see if she can come into the office and make it easier. We can do it during the day. And so we would make it like during office parties and stuff. We would have her come in and have a sign-up sheet and give her a conference room. And
what job were you doing at this point? Was it
no, I managed a regional office for a large real estate company.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was going to her pretty regularly, but I want to say I was going to see her like every few months. Now her waiting list is out of control. You've got to get on her waiting list a year and a half in advance.
Wow.
Yeah. I stopped seeing her a while ago because it was insane. You couldn't get in to see her.
Yeah.
So, so there were a variety of reasons I would go to see her, but then sometimes I would see other people too. And what I was going to bring up to you is that I have had a couple, like my experiences with her have all been pretty good. What's funny is that I hated that job. Like I was so run down in that job. I'm pretty sure that job is what made me sick. But whenever she read for me in the office, it was always a very negative reading.
Wow.
She would always say to me, your energy is so low. You have all this. And it would just be such a negative reading. And then when she would read for me in her house, it was always a much more positive reading. It was very interesting. And I was the only one that had that experience. Other people in the office did not have that experience with her. She could really she really felt, because I know I had very negative energy there because it just was draining me. The job was killing me. But that experience I had with her, I'm trying to think. I had that experience down in Atlanta, and that wasn't a card reading. That was a card reading. That was a medium. But I had this one experience. One of my employees took me down for I think she did it for my birthday. She took me, she said, my family's always gone to this woman who reads with playing cards. And I thought that was fascinating because I had never seen anyone read with playing cards before. Everybody I had gone to had read with actual tarot cards. And she says she's just always been dead on. She's always known everything. She predicted, my daughter was going to be a daughter, and she predicted I was going to get pregnant before I got pregnant. All this. So she's just this amazing, amazing woman, amazing reader. But I haven't seen her in a long time. It's been like 15 years since I've gone to her. But I would love to go back. So I think it was my birthday, she took me down there. And it was a little bit of a hike to go see her. So we made a day of it. And we, like a Saturday afternoon, we made an appointment to go see her. And we go to this house. Well, the woman, one, she smoked like a chimney. Like when her door opened, cigarette smoke wafted out of the house. It was like a cloud came out of her house. And I grew up with smokers, so I'm okay with cigarette smoke. But this was like extreme. This was like walking into a burning building. It was extreme. So we go in there and I'm like, my eyes start to water. And I'm like, oh, okay. So she sits down and she says, who wants to go first? So my employee says she's going to go first. Or she asked me if I want to go first. And I said, no, you go ahead and go first. So she sits down to go first. And this woman starts laying the cards out. And I noticed, and I'm sitting in like the other room, but I can hear what's going on, that she keeps kind of repeating the same stuff. And the whole time she's like, she even says, I have to smoke or I can't read. And the whole time she's smoking, and she's like, lady, she must have gone through an entire pack of cigarettes just reading.
Maybe there was something in
one person. I don't know. But I noticed like she kept repeating the same thing and asking the same questions over and over again. And I thought, yes, Jonathan, it was kind of like, was it Jonathan just said the Oracle from the Matrix? I missed it. The message jumped. Oh no, it was Chris Kelly. Yeah. It was kind of like the Oracle from the Matrix, only not as, it was stinkier. And so she kept just like repeating stuff, and I thought that was odd, but I wasn't really paying attention to the content so much because that's kind of a private thing. But I noticed her questions and things were repetitive. So I go in there and she starts doing the same thing. And then I noticed she's laying all the cards out, but she was losing track of the cards. Like she was like, oh no, I looked at that. No, I already read that. And then she's going back and forth. Well, it turns out that she had dementia. And my friend didn't know it. We left there and we're both like, I don't know if I couldn't stay focused because of the cigarette smoke or if that was off, but that's like the worst reading I've ever had. And and we're laughing about it, and we were making jokes about it, laughing about it and everything. Well, then she called, like 3 days later, called my employee to confirm her appointment for a haircut.
Oh,
and then she called again 3 days later to confirm her appointment for something else.
Oh,
so I felt so bad.
Oh, dear.
But it was the weirdest experience. But that's my one and only experience of having my cards read with playing cards, was this like kind of crazy smoky lady.
And I noticed Nancy said she knows a reader who is not sober while she reads, has to be drinking the red wine. Oh. Oh, the poor dear.
Ginger face that she knows somebody who actually smoked sage while she was reading. I don't know. I kind of wish it had been sage. That would have smelled better. But it was crazy. It was just crazy.
The poor darling.
Yeah. Then I went to a different one. And these are just the crazy ones. Like I've had some really good readings. I've had very, very good readings. I mean, by far, Charlotte and PA that I've gone to is probably the most consistent and best. That I've had one-on-one. I mean, I've had a reading by Benabel Wen, and that was the best reading I've ever had in my entire life. I've had readings by other people online because as soon as I found TarotTube, I started. Hey, Liam, can you put songs out, please? I started like every 6 months or so, I would get a reading from somebody online to try to get a feel for different people that read online. So I've had some very, very good readings that way. I'm sorry. Hold on. Hey, Liam, she's not going to go out there because of the heat pump. You have to put her out front. My dog's afraid of our heater, so she won't go in the backyard.
Jonathan pre-ordered a deck with a mediumship training deck. Oh, that sounds interesting.
Oh, that does sound interesting. But I did have another really crazy one that taught me never go to a tarot card reader with a fluorescent sign. And that was with a couple other people from my office. That was back when I was working. And we went to this woman that's in our town that's set up with a big sign on the main road with a big fluorescent sign. And we went in there, and it was 3 of us, and they took us into 3 different rooms. And it was the woman who was advertising and her mother and her sister, I believe. And they did card readings for us, which was interesting because they did it with, well, at least the woman that did me had multiple decks, but I don't think they were complete decks. Like, they were not all the same deck. Like, it was just a pile of different cards. And she did that. And then she proceeded to tell me a bunch of stuff that was not even close. And then tried to shake me down for $500, I think, to clear my aura, because she had to do. And then she wouldn't and I told her no, I wasn't going to pay any additional money. So I went out, and they wouldn't let us all sit. I think one other person was done and the third person was not done. And they wouldn't let the 2 of us, because they didn't want us to compare, because it turned out they all told us the exact same. They had the same spiel that they did.
Right.
But it was funny because they had different dollar amounts they tried to shake us down for. It was there, and we spent weeks trying to figure out what they based how much money they were asking us for. Because it wasn't, if they had the same story down, why didn't they have the same, dollar amount that they were trying to collect? So that was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you react to that? Do you just politely decline and walk away? Do you?
Yeah, I just said no. I said no. No, I don't think so. And then when she kept pressing, I said, I'm not spending any more money today. And that's when she just let me go.
Yeah. I don't know how polite I could stay in that kind of situation.
Yeah, it was weird. But it's funny because it gave us something to laugh about and something to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad because then you think about the people that go to them and do get taken advantage of. And you also think about what a bad name it does give tarot card readers.
Yeah.
Right. That's, that there are these scam artists out there and that they're setting up with these big neon signs, and, that's what that they're giving a, bad reputation to everybody who says they read tarot cards. Yeah. But on the flip side, you've got to look at it and kind of laugh about it, because it was just so transparent. And it's like, what, did they not think that we would eventually get in the same car together and tell, and they told all 3 of us that we wanted to have an affair and we needed, and we shouldn't do that. And we needed to pay money to get rid of the bad aura that was following us, that was tempting us to do these things. And it was just very bizarre. Yeah. It was very, very weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. I've never had an experience like that with a tarot reading.
Well, you should go to some with neon signs. That's what.
But I guess they don't care at that point when you're in the car comparing. By then they've got your money.
What was that?
I guess at that point, when you all leave, you get in the car, you compare. They don't care because they've got your money by that point.
No, but we're definitely not coming back with our $500 to get the candles and the crystals and the herbs or whatever they said that they needed to formulate to clear our aura. But it was just, it's just funny. So I've had really good, amazing experiences, and then I've had these really crazy, insane experiences that were.
Yeah. The neon sign she was going to order.
Yeah, no neon signs.
So, any other experiences you've had with her?
No, those were the highlights. Those were the highlights. My my having channeling my mom and the lady down in Atlanta. It was funny when I went. The lady down in Atlanta that saw my and again she she did read cards for some people. She did a mediumship for me. That's what I paid for. But I was down there with friends, and it was a girls' trip. And my one friend, and I still to this day, she has not told me. She hasn't told anybody what was said. But it was very, whatever happened, she went in there and came out, and she was a mess. Just like, and all she would say is she was shaking. She was so shaken up, and she just said, I have to think about that. I have to give that a lot of thought. And the woman, and I don't think she had a card reading. I don't think that she had. She asked for a medium experience, but the woman who was doing the readings had to take a break after my friend and go out. We were at a house on a lake, and go out and ground herself by the lake for like 20 minutes. She couldn't read for anyone else for a period of time after seeing my friend. And to this day, and that was years ago, that was probably a good 7 or 8 years ago. To this day, she has not shared with any of us what was said during that experience. And she will not let me read for her, which I find very interesting, because all of my other friends in that group will, and I've got one friend in that group. In fact, oh shoot, I was supposed to send her the link and I forgot. Oh well, I'll send her the playback.
Bit like me not sending you the link to like.
She, she's constantly asking me to read for her, but our other friend will not. And so we joke with her all the time. I'm like, when I started learning the Lenormand, I'm like, hey, I need some people to practice on. Come on, let me do a reading for you. And she's like, no, dead no.
Has she gone to any other tarot readers since that?
Not since that, I don't think. But oddly, her husband used to read cards.
Okay.
And that's why she was open to it.
Yeah.
That's why she was open to do it.
Yeah.
When we went. Because she's like, oh yeah, Tom used to do this all the time.
Gosh.
And then we went. So
what happened?
I know. I've always wondered what was said. And I've always wanted to read for her, but I won't, because that would be wrong. Because she doesn't want me to.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And what are your family? Hubby like? What are the girls like? What's your son like when it comes to you doing tarot reading and all of that stuff? Everyone. We were supposed to have cameo appearances.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Yeah. They had to go to work. So I read for the girls, and their friends wanted me to read for them. My husband's just kind of, just shakes it off. He's more concerned about how much I spend on the cards than what I'm doing with them. He did ask me the other day if I was going to read for him, and I was doing playing cards, and I said I would. but I said I didn't want to do the playing cards because I'm just learning the playing cards. But and
have you read him before?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
He's never asked before.
Yeah.
He's never asked before. So I was going to get tarot cards and read tarot cards for him, but then he lost interest and went off and did something else. So, short attention span. But if he wants me to, I'll read for him. My son has no interest. I don't even know if he realizes I read tarot cards. He's so in his own world.
Yeah, typical like male child. Although my son actually openly admitted in a sort of a crystal-y kind of jewelry, weird clothing shop I was in with my sister, in the shop in front of the people, said, "Oh, the only thing I'm okay with is tarot cards." And I'm just like, everybody heard that, right? Like, and he has to be like, because I keep saying you need to do something that is not bloody computer based. Like, grab one of my tarot decks, look at the art, don't worry about how you read it. And he's actually brought it up a couple of times, so I'm not quite sure where he's going to end up with that.
Yeah, no, he's had no interest, no. Although I will tell you something funny is that my daughter has been. I don't know if Simon's still here or not, but he will find this amusing. Is that my daughter has started talking to a Mormon boy, and I was sitting in here, and I was doing something with the cards, and she came in and started telling me about this boy, and I looked around at my little altar space and everything, and I said, "You realize you can never bring him here." I said, "If you go," she was telling me, she said, "It's so cute because he just says, dang it." And he said, and she was telling me, it's so funny because he never curses and he only says dang it. And he's just so very wholesome that she thought it was funny. And then I look around and I'm like, you can never bring him to our house. He will.
I know, I was babysitting my daughter's cat and I had her here for about 4 days. She's on the bed with me while I was playing with my tarot cards at one point, and she's sitting there just. I sent a photo to her and her partner, going, "Look, I'm teaching her tarot cards," and the partner was just like, "No, not coming back to your, like, this is a freaking cat." Like, I'm thinking, if you two end up married and have kids, I got bad news for you. Like, I'll have to do it in secret or they won't be allowed to come. I got in trouble for teaching the cat, like sitting with the cat doing What about your girls? Because your girls are very like open, they're out there, like particularly Regan. Is it Regan or Reagan? I don't know.
Reagan.
Okay. It's the accent thing I can't get down with pronouncing the name. Like, very open, very out there. Did they have an interest in learning?
They haven't shown any interest in learning. If they wanted to, I would teach them. Like I said, they're interested in me reading for them. Reagan was very skeptical at first. She was, she came to it very skeptical. Rory was very open. But then the first reading I did for Reagan was just like so spot on. And part of it was, and I even told her that, I said, I know you so well. It's going to be difficult to say how much of this I'm seeing in the cards and how much of this is just your mother.
Yeah.
But then I read stuff in the cards that she and I hadn't talked about. And that kind of startled her. So now she's much more open. And they think it's really cool. Like I'm the cool mom because I do something weird.
Wow. I'm just the very freak mom because I do. I'm definitely not cool because I do it in my kid's ass.
Well, their friends are all artsy. They're in theater and orchestra, and they're all artsy kids. So it's different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
their friends like the weird, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I know one of my daughter's best friends is very into all this sort of stuff, but it's the same, really skeptical. And the last reading I did for her, and it was that same thing, like, I'm your mum. So the way certain cards came, it was like, it's either this or it's this. And she and when the actual event happened, I said, remember I read that in your cards like 3 weeks ago? Oh, yeah. She did.
Yeah.
And I've actually had one of my friends ask me to read for him, and it was stupid o'clock at night, and I'm like, I promise I'll do it next time, but I'm not in the headspace right now. Yeah. So it's interesting. Do you think any of your girls have, like, just knowing them, knowing their personality thing, do you see them maybe one day wanting to learn?
I don't know. Oh my gosh, these dogs are driving me crazy. And they won't go out. My son tried to put them out, and they just will not go out. I don't know. Rory, maybe. I don't see Reagan doing it. She's just very, as extroverted and as out there as she is, and as theatrical as she is very much a kind of by the book person. She just, she's very regimented in everything, and everything is by the book, and they both are. They both are, really. They're, but I see maybe Rory. I could see being a little bit more, exploring things.
Yeah.
She of either of them asks me the most questions.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not a lot, but she's the one that shows the most interest.
Yeah.
What little interest she shows.
Yeah. I can just, like, from watching your mother-daughter tag, which was fabulous, I just have this image of Reagan, like, doing a whole skit, dressing up as that typical, like,
she would totally do that.
Taking the piss out of it. Like, I can just see her doing that.
Yes, she would totally. I mean, her dream is to be the next Oprah. Like, she wants to be on TV in front of people daily, giving stuff away. That's what she wants to do. So.
That's beautiful. And if anyone has questions for Mendy, pop them all in now, like, before we kind of get to the end of it. God, now I was going to ask something in regards to the girl. I don't know. I've totally lost it now. Anything else that we sort of hadn't, and just so everyone knows, I don't ask when I have someone come on. It was the same with Jonathan. It's like, just give me the very basics of cool experiences, because I just want this to be a chat. So anything that we hadn't, like, had that little mini chat about that you've thought of since, any other experiences that I forgot to bring up that you want to mention?
I can't think of anything. I mean, we've pretty much covered every supernatural event that's happened in my life.
Yeah. What are your plans going forward, like with tarot, that kind of thing?
What was that? The dogs are driving me. I can't.
What are your plans going forward with tarot? Because, like, I know learning is a huge thing for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have plans per se. Justin. I know. I just continue to learn. I mean, that's really, I don't have any ambition around it.
Yeah.
Just continuing to learn. I played a little with drawing my own deck. but that kind of fell to the wayside because I really didn't like what I was doing with the major. So I may redo that. I've, considered doing some writing, but I've played with outlined some things, but nothing's really, I don't really have any ambition towards it. It's just something I'm continuing to learn.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you just go with you at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Golden Dawn? Is Justin's question.
I do not have a problem with the Golden Dawn, Justin. I think that tarot was great the way it was. It didn't need all the added layers, but the added layers, there's not a problem with the added layers. They bring something too.
Very well articulated.
Jonathan wants to know what my current favorite decks are. Well, Jonathan, I just did not too long ago my favorite videos, but right now I'm obsessed with the Botan Tarot. I just received that on Saturday, and I cannot put that thing down. I love it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
And I'm certain that answers Chris's. Unless you mean system, Chris. So let's just talk about your favorite system. We've talked about the deck.
So right now, honestly, I kind of took a little break from tarot because I really loved. I didn't intend to learn Lenormand. It was kind of just something to do with the whole quarantine thing, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. I absolutely love it. And then I planned to learn playing cards, and I love playing cards. I'm just getting my feet wet. I really am not very good at it. I'm just practicing it, but I love it. So that's really what I'm focused on. I hadn't touched a tarot deck for a couple weeks until the Botan Tarot came in on Saturday. Because I was so into the Lenormand and the playing cards.
Yeah, I was going to do the playing card course, but I still haven't got through the Lenormand one yet. So I'm like,
well, and now I'm doing the replay of the runes, beginner runes, but I'm on the fence with those. I don't know if I'm going to go forward with the intermediate class or not on that. We'll see.
Yeah. And you sort of talked a little bit about that painting your own Tarot de Marseille part.
Yeah.
I think you'll come back to if it.
Yeah, I'm really. These dogs, they're worse than the kids because they will not be quiet. I will go back to it. I just got really frustrated with myself because I did not like. I did one major after another, and I wasn't happy with it. And I got to. I think I did 7, or maybe I started the 8, and I'm just like, why am I because I don't like what I'm doing, so I just put it away. I loved what I did with the minors. I was really happy with my minors. I really enjoy drawing the pip cards, but I didn't. And the quartz, once I got the horses down, I liked my quartz, but the majors I wasn't happy with, so I think I need to give that some thought before I go back to it. Oracle deck. I don't use oracles that much. I would say my favorite is probably the Oracle of Echoes, and then the soul. Is it the Soul Trees tree? It's in the purple box with the trees. I like that. And then of course I just ordered. Did the Kickstarter with the Cosmovisions, which is an oracle, but it's basically a kind of a oracle / tarot deck.
So, Sedana's asking, where are you taking these classes?
Yes, I am taking the classes with Kelly at the Truth and Story, and I'm addicted to her classes. I keep trying to convince her to sell some sort of annual pass because I really just take her classes so that I can hang out with Chris and Jamie, Kelly, and Masha on the chat for 3 or 4 hours every Saturday.
Yeah, see, when I started her Lenormand, you guys were pretty much nearly at the end of it anyway.
Yeah.
But I still got to get it, but it's still kind of sitting in the wings waiting for me to actually listen back. So that's why I'm like, no, I'm not going to commit to the playing card yet.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for you. The timing is hard for you. I don't know how Masha and Nearest does it. Nearest stayed up. I mean, Masha was bailing out after 3 hours or so, but Nearest stayed up till the end every class.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it's like 1 a.m. here is the nearest. Right, it's not 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. So it looks like a question, and if who was it that I saw in the chat earlier? Nancy.
I don't know what they're barking at. There's nobody out there.
Chris, you are blame for the dogs because it wasn't until you brought it up.
I know they were asleep. They were sound asleep, and somebody asked about the dogs, and then they went crazy.
So we're putting it all on you, Chris. So, like I said, I'm not doing this to like do interviews. There are people out there who do incredible interviews, and I just like chatting with people and being nosy and finding out about the background, all of that. So, and I know Nancy in here, you talked about earlier in the chat. I didn't catch it all, but
hold on for 1 second. Hold on. Sansa, come on.
So if anyone wants to come on and just chat about their background, please let me know. Like I said, it's nothing formal. It's nothing formal at all. Even if you're not a YouTube content creator, but you want to share stuff, come on. I know one of my next ones I have coming up is with the beautiful Candy Morrigan. She has a lot of fascinating stories about that as well. So
hopefully that'll help. Sorry, I just forcibly removed one from the instigator.
So yes, if anyone wants to come on, share their like history, all that kind of stuff. Oh, I can hear my dogs are all howling in the background now. Can you hear them?
They're protesting me pushing the dog out the door.
This is what they do when the crows are going off, and it's nonstop, this howling. And I don't know if they're talking to the crows or they're really pissed off with the crows around. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It was awesome to chat with you and fascinating to hear about like your background and so many goosebumps and watery eye moments throughout. That was for sure. So
yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And sorry, I just cannot keep up with chat when I don't know how anybody does that.
Yeah. So and yes, hello and everything to everyone who came in that I didn't kind of acknowledge as you came in. But yeah, I get a little bit engrossed in my chatting. So all right. Well, I will let you get on this afternoon. I'll head off and start my day. Thank you for coming, and thank you so much, Mendy. This has been so much fun. I loved it.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Bye, all.
Bye.